I mean, can you sue people? Have you tried doing any of that?
No, I mean we have a lawsuit with a guy who made like 3,000 videos. Again, if you're gonna critique stand up or my fight picks or my football picks, all good. That's what the internet's for. Now, if you're gonna go out there and defamation, like whatever, Brendan hits his kids or beats his wife, well, then you got my attention. I'm gonna come after you.
Oh,
yeah, that game I don't play, and the guy's suffering from that. So.
Mark Twain famously said, "It's better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt." 5 days ago, Brendan Schaub appeared as a guest on the Hot Breath Comedy Network with Joel Byers for a 40-minute interview. They discussed everything from Schaub's online hate and his lawsuit against a YouTuber, how Schaub does his business, he commented on Rogan's Spotify deal and the mechanics behind it, and they also reflected on his own comedy career. Now, I've never heard of Joel Byers before I saw this interview. He's a comedian who's been working for over a decade. I watched some of his stand-up just here on YouTube while I was preparing, and he seems like a pretty down-to-earth and genuine guy.
Hey, I've been doing comedy over 10 years, and it is a dream job if you hate money. Like, seriously, I have a podcast called Hot Breath, and I've interviewed over 400 comedians on there, and the top 3 tips have been write jokes, get on stage, and marry someone with a job.
Look, his comedy is a bit safe for me, but his interviewing skills were really impressive. He didn't hold back, he asked some tough questions, and he caught Bapa out a few times. So I'm going to leave Joel out of this video. He's not the subject of my criticism here. In fact, I appreciate that he produced this interview because it stopped me in my tracks and revealed Brendan Schaub's true character. Almost everything Bapa says in this interview is either factually incorrect, misleading, or completely incoherent. Now, for my regulars watching, you will have noticed that in the last couple of months, I've been easing up on Bapa and focusing on some other podcasters and comedy hacks. I've said multiple times that he seems to be improving in his self-awareness. Some of his takes have been decent, and I even used some of his clips recently to support my own arguments. Some of you didn't like that. But I always give credit where credit is due, but that goes both ways. So this video is going to be a little bit different to my usual videos. I'm going to show you guys why Brendan Schaub is a complete idiot. Firstly, I'm going to show you why, in my opinion, he will lose his lawsuit against that YouTuber. In fact, this interview itself, in my opinion, has enough evidence to completely ruin Bapa's case. Again, this is just my opinion as a former lawyer. There you go, something else you guys didn't know about me. But I'm also going to show you why Brendan Schaub is a terrible businessman and fact-check some of his claims that he makes about Joe Rogan and his Spotify deal, which are completely false, baseless, and ignorant. Basically, it seems like Bapa can't do basic maths, and when you combine that with his confidence, you have a classic Dunning-Kruger masterclass on display. And then finally, I'll show you why his comedy career is completely fake. Bapa reveals the details behind how he got famous without any talent, how Joe Rogan leaving LA has materially affected his comedy career, and I'll even show you the part where Joel asks him why he hasn't performed at Rogan's Comedy Club yet. So, like I said, this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little longer than usual, so I've posted timestamps in the description and in the comments for you guys, just in case you don't have time or you want to skip to the parts that interest you the most. Otherwise, just let it play all the way through and let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Also, for those of you who are interested, I'll leave a link below to the full interview with Joel so you can get the full context behind my commentary and analysis. But let's start with Schaub's reflections on all the online hate and the lawsuit.
Yeah, you seem to be good at like just focusing on what you can control and not letting the negativity get to you.
I mean, I have to. Otherwise, I'd drive my TRX off a highway, off the PCH.
Flex.
Yes.
My TRX.
I mean, it's a Dodge truck. It's not much of a flex. I didn't say like Lamborghini or nothing. It's still a truck. I'm a blue collar guy here. Yeah. So yeah, what else you can do? Stop? Quit? No, that's not me. That's never gonna happen.
But have you done anything to try to like suppress this or like get on top of it? Like it's just
what do you? No, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, can you sue people? Have you tried doing any of that?
No, I mean we have a lawsuit with a guy who made like 3,000 videos. Again, if you're gonna critique stand up or my fight picks or my football picks, all good. That's what the internet's for. Now, if you're gonna go out there and defamation, like whatever, Brendan hits his kids or beats his wife, well, then you got my attention. I'm gonna come after you.
Oh,
yeah, that game I don't play, and the guy's suffering from that. So. That is whatever. But, the internet's always going to internet. There's nothing you can do to combat that. But, I'm in the business of likability. So when I go on the road, I think, too, for younger comics or people getting into this, you think that the internet's all the comments or whatever it is real. It's not real, man. I make a business off likability. I have, 10 endorsement deals. That's how I pay my bills. I have 10 endorsement deals. And this isn't a flex. It's just showing you that,
right.
I'm more loved than I am liked. I go to a coffee shop. I was just with my brother. I can't go anywhere without meeting nice people, man, who love what I do. And then also I sell tickets on the road. That's how else I pay my mortgage, So that stuff is real. That's attainable. I see and meet those people. So I think that's what helps me navigate through all the darkness.
Okay, I'm going to get straight into this now. If I'm Bapa's lawyer, I would be on the phone to him right now telling him that this interview needs to be deleted immediately, and I'm not even joking a little bit. Here's why. In the first part of that clip, he says that it's okay to criticize him over the stuff he says on his podcasts, such as his fight picks for boxing and MMA or his football picks, and that's straight up false. Private citizens do not need permission to criticize public figures. That's protected by the First Amendment, and it's been well established and held up time and time again by the United States Supreme Court. But here's where it gets interesting. He went on to say that criticism is okay until it comes to things like his wife and kids. Now, I actually agree with that. I think it's poor form to criticize innocent bystanders, even if they're related to a degenerate like Brendan Schaub. However, that's a personal view that I share with Bapa, not a legal view, because what he's saying there is not protected by law. He effectively created his own legal standard because he's got hurt feelings. This is quite common in the legal world, and it gets very expensive very quickly for guys like Bapa with that kind of attitude and money to burn. And this is where we get to the smoking gun. This is the bit that his lawyers will be fuming over.
I'm in the business of likability. So when I go on the road, I think, too, for younger comics or people getting into this, you think that the internet's all the comments or whatever it is real. It's not real, man. I make a business off likability. I have, 10 endorsement deals. That's how I pay my bills. I have 10 endorsement deals. And this isn't a flex. It's just showing you that,
right.
I'm more loved than I am liked. I go to a coffee shop. I was just with my brother. I can't go anywhere without meeting nice people, man, who love what I do. And then also I sell tickets on the road. That's how else I pay my mortgage, So that stuff is real. That's attainable. I see and meet those people. So I think that's what helps me navigate through all the darkness.
Now, I don't know all the details about this lawsuit. All I'm going off is that Schaub said that it's a defamation case against a YouTuber for saying false things about his wife and kids, etc. So in these types of defamation lawsuits, there's an element that the plaintiff needs to prove to the court called serious harm or actual harm. It just depends which jurisdiction you're in, but the concept is broadly the same across the spectrum. Bapa would need to demonstrate actual harm or damages resulting from the defamatory statement. This could include financial losses or damage to reputation, but it has to be a measurable negative consequence. He just clearly outlined right there that even though there are these voices on the internet criticizing him and his family, it has not had any material impact on his real world. He's still selling tickets. He's still meeting nice people day in, day out. In fact, he literally said his day-to-day interactions with his fans are overwhelmingly positive. Basically, he outlined how there is no serious harm or actual damages. They were just words online, it seems. Bro, that's not defamation. That's just hurt feelings. An example of defamation would be if he saw a noticeable dip in his ticket sales and him and his family received backlash from the public in their day-to-day lives, they had trouble leaving the house, etc. But according to him, there's nothing. And don't be mistaken, this interview that he just gave can be used as evidence in court, 100%. He was clear, he was measured, and to me, it seemed like a credible statement and an accurate assessment of his public life. But it gets worse, because as a public figure, the bar for defamation is much higher than just between two private nobody citizens. There's this thing called actual malice, and it only applies to defamation cases involving public figures. It was established to safeguard the First Amendment rights of free speech and free press. So get this. It was introduced specifically to prevent public figures from easily suing private citizens, like this case exactly. Now, the difference is Brendan Schaub will have to show that the YouTuber in question believed at the time that the statements they made were false. It's not enough to show that the statements themselves were false. No, this is different. This is actual malice. He has to show that the other guy knew himself that what he was saying wasn't true. Now, tell me, how is he going to prove that? How is Bapa going to prove what some random YouTuber was thinking at the time he was making a video? Come on, look. Basically, whenever you're involved in a legal case, the number one rule is that you don't talk about it in public. So what does Bapa do? He goes and does an interview and completely wrecks his case by admitting it was a case of hurt feelings and has no legal basis in defamation law. Like I said though, this is just my legal opinion, having seen so many of these cases in the United States in the past. Now, my final word on this lawsuit business is this. We all know what happened to Louis C.K. in 2017. I've covered that in detail on this channel previously. Louis almost lost $40 million as a result of the allegations from 5 women, which were published in the New York Times at the end of 2017. Now, hypothetically, if it subsequently came out that those women were all lying and they fabricated those allegations to bring Louis down and wreck his reputation, now that would be an open and shut case of defamation, a clear-cut case of defamation. Even though I agree that commenting on Bapa's relationship with his wife and kids is out of line, what he's talking about is just hurt feelings. All right, let's move into why Brendan Schaub is a terrible businessman who can't do basic maths or use Google.
I think I've heard you say that your business isn't run by like what's going to make money. Like you said, you don't make decisions based on like what's going to make the most money.
Never. So now that's different when I have employees, because then sometimes I have to do certain things where I would never agree to because I know it's going to bring in this certain amount of money. I'm like, all right, it's more work for me, but everyone's going to eat. All good. I'm done for that. But yeah, I never go, oh, let's do this because I know it's going to be the cool, trendy thing to make a ton of money. No, that's not the business I'm in, ever.
All right, this is actually pretty funny. So basically, what we got from that clip is that Brendan Schaub doesn't structure his business and content creation around making money. Instead, it's all about just creating good quality content to entertain his fans and have good conversations. Is that about right? Did you guys get that from what he just said? All right, let's continue.
What is like the structure of like a podcast, like monetizing a podcast? Because it seems like you're very savvy at like, okay, advertising, but then you also seem to have merch figured out, and then also like Patreon. Like, what are the streams that you build to like elevate a show?
Yeah, so it's all in the ecosystem, right? Because you have your podcast or your podcast network, which people will tune into, every week, every day, hopefully, if you're doing it right. But then that promotes the comedy. So it's like they go hand in hand, because the better your podcast is doing, the more tickets you're selling. So that's in that ecosystem. And then with me, I think during COVID, I realized it, even before then, but when it comes to podcast reads, there's so much more you can do with that. Because the podcast read is just an audio read, and they might get some return, but even I fast forward through the ads, so it's like this can't be a good. When someone talks to me like, "Well, here's $20,000 for a read, for this month," I'm like, "You're not gonna see your money, man. I'm telling you, you're not gonna sell $20,000 in underwear. Like you might be good for brand association, but you're not getting that money." So my deals now, I have those. Obviously, we have the podcast reads, but now it's more of a 360 deal where it includes social media, whether it's the Finding the Kids social media, Golden Hour social media, my independent endorsements will trickle into the show. So it's this whole ecosystem where it's just not predicated on a certain amount of views you're getting, stuff like that. So they're getting the biggest bang for their buck. And so it's not predicated also, because summer's a slow time for podcasts, or predicated on we have this huge guest, let's make sure we do this. So it's just a way to kind of ride the waves where it's not these ups and downs.
Right, I see. Wow. So basically, right after he explained how he doesn't do things for money, he goes into intricate detail about how he's created a promotional ecosystem with his podcast network so he can sell more tickets to his comedy shows. And then he explains how he uses his social media accounts in tandem with his podcasting network to make it more effective and profitable for his advertisers.
So it's all in the ecosystem, right? Because you have your podcast or your podcast network, which people will tune into, every week, every day, hopefully if you're doing it right. But then that promotes the comedy. So it's like they go hand in hand, because the better your podcast doing, the more tickets you're selling. My deals now, I have those. Obviously, we have the podcast reads, but now it's more of a 360 deal where it includes social media, whether it's the Fighting the Kids social media, Golden Hour social media, my independent endorsements will trickle into the show. So it's this whole ecosystem where it's just not predicated on a certain amount of views you're getting, stuff like that. So they're getting the biggest bang for their buck.
I think I've heard you say that your business isn't run by like what's going to make money. Like you said, you don't make decisions based on like what's going to make the most money.
Never.
So doesn't that mean that his whole ecosystem is set up to make money? Maybe I've just misunderstood the genius of Brendan Schaub. Unfortunately, though, when he started talking about Rogan and his Spotify deal, he fully Mark Twained himself. After I play this clip, I'm going to use the latest advanced technology to show you that Bapa is completely wrong, that he states incorrect facts, and pretends to be a smart business shark. You may have heard of it. It's called Google.
I don't know. I'm seeking your guidance here, as like you've seemed to have figured out like the media side of this podcasting game, and now I'm looking to elevate this podcast really into a show.
Yep.
So I'm really looking to like getting.
And I think that's something you have to do, because I think we've been doing Fighting Kid for 12 years. When we started in Brian's Garage, you're at almost 13 years now. So when we started, everyone their gay aunt didn't have a podcast. Like, there's no level to entry. There's no barrier. So anybody can do it. People see the success of shows, whatever show you're into, and they go, I can talk, I can do that. So they do it. Doesn't mean it's to be successful. So now it's oversaturated. And especially in the past year, the podcast bubble burst. The Spotify deals, they lost their ass. Not on Rogan. They saved their ass on Rogan. They're lucky they signed Joseph Rogan. And Rogan and I will argue about this. I don't give a fuck. He got underpaid. You look at the valuation of their stock and how much that company's worth now because they signed Rogan compared to what they paid him. I'm a shark when it comes to business. They underpaid my man. They underpaid. He should have got paid a lot more. All good. That's his thing. I would done the deal. I'm just saying, you look how much that company is evaluated now, and then you look at the money they tossed, the Obamas, that woke boy, what's his name? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Yeah. You look at all these shows and the other shows I'm fan of, so I won't say them. They've all lost their ass on that, except for Joseph Rogan. They could have taken that money and just put it towards him, and signed a longer deal, because his deal's up soon. Oh,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-year deal. Good luck with that.
3-year, $100 million?
Yeah. But even that, he was making, and people are like, oh my God, so much money. He was making, I don't want to give away his finance. I mean, he was making good amount of money, but it's not like that's far off from what he's doing on his own.
Yeah. So I guess there's a, if I could get the middle class of podcasting, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, hell yeah, middle class, good living.
Alrighty then, let's do some fact checking. First of all, Bapa clearly knows nothing about Rogan's Spotify deal, because we all know that it's worth north of $200 million, not the $100 million that was initially quoted, which is what Bapa just quoted himself. Okay, but what about his other claim?
You look at the valuation of their stock and how much that company's worth now because they signed Rogan compared to what they paid him. I'm a shark when it comes to business. They underpaid my man.
So if I just jump over to Google and type in what was Spotify's share price on September 1, 2020, which is when Rogan had his first week officially on Spotify. All right, it says $291.75. So now if I type in what was Spotify's share price on Friday, it says $192.17. Okay, I'm not very good at maths, so I'm going to go over to ChatGPT now and say, is $291.75 bigger than $192.17? Yes. Okay, by how much? $99.58. Okay. So then how much smaller is the second number than the first number in percentage terms? Yeah, that's a good one. The second number is approximately 34% smaller than the first number. I see.
You look at the valuation of their stock and how much that company is worth now because they signed Rogan compared to what they paid him. You know, I'm a shark when it comes to business. They underpaid my man.
Okay, so Brendan Business Shark Schaub got me thinking about this idea that Rogan saved Spotify and created all of this value for them. So being the nerd that I am, I decided to dive into their financials and see if I could figure out how much of an impact Joe Rogan has actually had on Spotify's business model. Here's what I found. In a section explaining the risks related to their business model, I found this interesting sentence. In order to increase our advertising revenue, we seek to increase the listening time that our users spend on our service or find new opportunities to deliver advertising to users on the service, such as through podcasts and other opportunities relating to content promotion to users. So basically, the revenue that Spotify gets from podcasts is based primarily off of advertising. Then I thought, well, how much of Spotify's revenue comes from advertising? So using my advanced Googling skills, I typed in Spotify revenue breakdown, and here's what Google told me. Spotify segment breakdown, premium services 88%, ad-supported services 12%. And then in gross profit terms, 95% for premium and 5% for ad-supported services. So that means almost all of Spotify's revenue comes from their subscription service, which has nothing to do with podcasts. The only benefit of having Spotify Premium is so you can fast forward through podcast ads. That's it. I'm not aware of any other benefit purely for listening to podcasts that you would get from having Spotify Premium. That service is all focused on listening to music ad-free, creating playlists, etc., etc. But it gets worse. When you go from revenue to profit, it paints an even worse picture for podcasts on Spotify. They lose more than half the ad revenue in costs, 12% versus 5%, compared to their premium service, which only goes down from 95% to 88%. So not only is Bapa's claim that Rogan saved Spotify and added all this value to their share price completely false and has no basis in fact, he also has no idea how Spotify's business model works and where they make 95% of their profit. But we should cut him some slack, right? Googling's hard, you know. That took me about 3 minutes. Anyway, enough business talk. Let's move into the final phase of this video, Bapa's fake comedy career.
Joe Rogan really like shifted the mindset in comedy of like, we're not against each other, we're really together, and we can like, a rising tide can lift all boats.
Correct.
He seemed to be like the tip of the spear on that.
And then he took that ship and, you know, he went to Austin. So that's the same philosophy out there in Austin. But, you know, now LA's like Game of Thrones because the king's at it, you know, got his head cut off. By head cut off, I mean, he moved to Austin. And then now it's back to survival of the fittest, which is fine. You know, I can do both. I can adapt with both. I'm down. But it was a better time when Rogan was in town.
How was it different?
It's just, you know, when you got a guy at that magnitude going, this is how we do it. Everyone respects everybody. We support each other in every way possible, whether it's podcasts, putting each other on shows. Like, this is how we do it. Like, people are like, I guess that, even if they didn't want it, like, that's what I got to do if that's what the guy says. And that's how he carries himself. We're going to do the same. So it was just a more welcoming time. Then he leaves and that kind of standard's gone. And, you know, you know, you still got the big boy, you know, you got Santino and Bobby doing, you know, Bad Friends. You got Bert Kreischer. He just does his on his own. Segura's gone. Theo's gone. Tim Dillon's in and out, right? So it's just kind of everyone spread. So that kind of, you know, those kind of unspoken rules are gone. Which is, you know, I'm down for the lawlessness town. I'm down for that. I'll survive in that. But it's just not as fun, if that makes sense.
Oh man, I actually cannot believe he said those words out loud. Let's break this down. When Rogan was back in LA, there was an unsung rule that everyone helped each other out and had them on their podcasts, but now that he's left, it's back to every man for himself. So what that means is none of the LA crew have him on their shows anymore since Rogan left. I'm sure most of you know the story of how Brendan Schaub quit the UFC after Rogan told him on a live stream that he wasn't cut out for it, he's not an elite fighter, he's going to damage his brain even more than it already is, and then Rogan screwed us all by convincing Bapa he was funny and kept having him on his podcast over and over and over again until finally Brendan carved out his own little audience from Rogan's, and he's managing to make a decent living from that to this day. But one thing that irritates me is that if Rogan thinks Schaub is so funny, why won't he let him do a set at his new comedy club in Austin?
Have you been on his mothership yet?
I have not. I'm there Saturday, but when I come in, I'm there for the fight companion, and the cards out there start at 9. So we get done, sometimes a 3-4 hour show. So we'll get done at 1, 2 in the morning. And I don't want to go up the mothership when it's, 2 in the morning. So we need to figure out the time where I'm not there doing shows. Mm-hmm. It's just tough with my schedule too. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to go there, love to perform, and we'll figure something out. But it's also, when Joe asks me, I'll be there, but it's tough with my schedule.
Gotcha.
It's tough with his schedule. It's tough. And he also doesn't book it. Adam Egett, who used to work at the store, books it, and Adam's my boy. So we just got to figure something out, that makes sense. But it's with kids, and it's just, I don't live the life of some of these comics, in their 30s or in their 40s that don't have kids or don't have a wife, where, man, if I was younger, if it was, before my son came, I'd be on a plane out there on a Tuesday night and, having drinks off 6th Street and doing my thing. But now it takes a lot for me to leave. I don't care what it is, man.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Like me and Bert, when I was on his show, I had this conversation, Bert started crying, because Bert's the best in the world, man. He's the absolute best guy in the world. But, he tours different. He gets a tour bus. He's gone for, weeks, months at a time. And he did that even when his kids were young. And so I was asking about his movie, and this is before it came out. And he's like, hopefully with the, the Russia war, who knows, man, it kind of screws me over. I'm like, that's terrible, man. It's like your big break. Not that you need it. Everybody knows who you are. But when you make a movie about the machine store, this is a big deal. He's like, I know. And I'm like, how long were you out there? He's like, man, I was in wherever they shot in Russia. He's like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months. I'm like, oh, that's insane. He's like, let me ask you this. I know you're a homebody and you got kids. If they asked you to do a movie, but you couldn't see your kids for 4 to 6 months, would you do it? I'm like, no, I wouldn't do it. He's like, you're telling me if they're like, hey, you can be Batman, but you can't have your kids for 6 months? I'm like, that's the difference between us, dude. It's just not. I've just gotten to this level. It's not a success level. Maybe it's a maturity level. Now nothing's worth missing the time. You leave for a week, and if you have a 2 or 3 year old, they're completely different, man. You're missing that stuff. It's just not. That's where I'm at, man.
So Brendan Schaub hasn't performed at the Comedy Mothership because he has kids? Like, seriously? That was the most incoherent answer I've ever heard. How quickly did he change the subject to Bert Kreischer and his Machine movie? Bro, the guy's worse than me with Bert. What are you talking about? It's a comedy club. You're not Batman. And he even let it slip that he hasn't been asked to go and perform there. Imagine being such a close friend with someone. I mean, according to Bapa, him and Rogan text every day, but he won't even let you perform at his comedy club, and that's what your main profession is. The funny thing is, Bapa's actually been inside the comedy club and hung out in the green room, but he hasn't actually done a set there. Oh man, it gets me every time when he runs with that story about not being able to tee up a time. Oh, but if Rogan asked me to perform there, I'd do it. Bro, what? Which one is it? Oh man, I don't want to spend time away from my kids. Geez, this guy. Anyway, I think one of the best parts of this interview, though, was when Joel puts Bapa on the spot about why he rushed his comedy career so much and why he put out a special after only a couple of years in the game. He caught Schaub off guard here and left him literally speechless for a few seconds.
The advice I would have for comics, like, learn from me, man, as far as there's no rush. You're going to see these comics posting clips on social media, and that's the trendy thing to do. And you see everyone's posting crowd work because they want to ruin their 15 minutes or 30 minutes or their special material. And you see all this crowd work. And I don't have the answer. Do something different. Everyone's doing that. Do something different. And also don't be in a rush to get that stuff out. Like, let it build. Like, for me, and I had advice from Rogan, from Brian, like, don't do a special yet. Wait. With my other special, with the Green Girl Poppy, everyone's like, oh, I got 2 million views. Yeah, I would have waited on all of it. I would have waited till I got 10 years. And there's a reason they say that. So it's like, don't be in a rush. I know it's going to be tempting because you want to get it out there. You see all your friends doing, or comics you look up to doing it. Don't be in a rush. Mm-hmm. Just wait, man. Just wait. There's no advantage to doing it early. There's absolutely zero advantage.
So why didn't you wait?
I didn't wait. That's a good question. It's tough. And, put yourself in my shoes. You're 2 years into comedy. Showtime comes to you, offers you this amount of money. More money than I ever made in the UFC, more money than I was making on podcasts, and offers you to do this hour that you've been doing, for 2 years. You're like, yeah, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And I was like, oh, this would be cool. People will realize I've only been doing it for 2 years. Fastest comic ever get a major network special. They're going to celebrate this. No, that's not how this works. What? No, they're not normal human beings. No, buddy. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
They're gonna despise you for it. They're gonna hate you for it. I didn't see that coming. All good. I have big shoulders for a reason. I was built for this hate. It doesn't affect me, but I don't like it. And I wish I could change some things, but it is what it is. But I have thick skin, so I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, really, you guys? Oh, okay. But then I put myself in their shoes, like, dude, that guy over there was doing it for 15 years, then got a network special. Like, yeah, man, he's not gonna like that. Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah. I get it. And I have no ill will towards any of those people. I get it.
Hang on. I thought Brendan didn't do things for money. What happened to that mantra? Dude, get your story straight. And that whole thick skin story, bro, you're suing a YouTuber. You threatened Bobby Lee's ex-girlfriend Kalila for saying mean things about you on her podcast. You have the thinnest skin in the game. Now look, this has been a long video, so I'm going to tie it up with this. Schaub still does not understand why he receives so much hate. When it comes to the comedy community, the reason is simple. They feel like his career was artificially boosted by being one of Rogan's best friends when he clearly just isn't funny. And you have to remember, this is something that many people don't realize. Bapa hasn't just had a few appearances on JRE here and there. Over the years, get this, he's had over 130 appearances. The exposure that Rogan has given him has been absolutely mind-blowing. That's why comics hate him. He's had millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in free advertising just by going on JRE that many times. But that's just the comedy community. For the rest of us, he's simply just not entertaining. I mean, the guy's clearly an idiot. He can't speak properly, he can't think clearly, he makes up facts, he tries too hard, he's a bully if he doesn't get his way. He just does not belong on a stage or behind a mic or in front of a camera or basically just anywhere in public view. I almost feel like apologizing to you guys for thinking that he was on his redemption arc. After this interview with Joel, I was reminded of precisely why I started disliking this guy in the first place. I guess it's true that you've just got to trust your first instincts. Anyway, that's my breakdown of Brendan Business Shark Schaub. I know it was a little bit different, but I hope you enjoyed the video all the same. Drop a comment below, let me know what you guys think about all of this, and if you haven't subscribed yet, consider jumping on board so you get all my uploads right there in your feed. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one.
Well, as we end this, do you have any closing advice for comics out there?
Don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't stop. You stop, they win. And by they is whoever they is in your mind. So just work, man. No matter what the show, if it's the trendy, popular, doesn't matter. Just get up there, man, and work. And work. That's all it is. Be a shark. Don't stop moving. I'm exhausted, so I don't know if that's good advice. I'll probably die early, but don't stop.